Hey there, and welcome to the Hey Kahla Podcast. I am your host, Kayla Evans, and in this episode, we're chatting all about perfectionism, which most of us suffer from time to time. And yes, I said suffer. And we're going to be breaking down what it truly is and how we can massively improve our lives when we ditch it. Now, I feel like perfectionism is one of those words like authenticity. We use them a lot in society, right? Especially on social media. Everybody says those words like all the time. And how many of us have either used it or heard someone else use it in job interviews, right? When they ask us like, what's your biggest weakness? It's always, I'm a perfectionist, that and I'm a workaholic. But perfectionism is a word, again, that gets thrown around a ton. And if you're lucky enough to have never wrestled with it or somehow, some way have never heard of the term before, it's just this idea that we have to be better than we are, or that we have to be an absolutely perfect version of ourselves before we can go do the thing we want to do. Or the idea that we have to make the thing as perfect as possible before we release it or share it with the world. And I'm sure you can think of a time when this may have been you, or maybe you're currently stuck in a perfectionist state with something that you're working on. That was the case for me with this podcast. It's been about a month since I launched this puppy, and ever since the first episode, I have been struggling with mic issues, more accurately like audio quality issues. I am currently bouncing back and forth between my two mics, my trusty old gal that I've had for years, dating back to my radio days, and then the new one that I just bought myself to celebrate the launch of the podcast. And let me tell you, neither one is great. The audio quality is not what I want it to be. So, side note, thank you so much for hanging in there with me and listening to these episodes. I have tried everything that I can think of. I've even tried 2 different recording software programs, a bunch of different cords, again, different mics, different systems. It's still just not as rich and clear as I expect it to be. And I actually thought about stopping, like no longer putting out episodes until I had fixed my issues and everything sounded just as good as I wanted it to. And this came on a day when, honestly, I cried a little because I recorded one episode like 5 times trying to get it decent-ish at least to be uploaded. And I was about to bail on something that A, I had just started, and B, I absolutely freaking love doing already. Like, this is already one of my favorite things I've ever done in my career or my life. And I was about to just give it up because the quality wasn't up to my standard. And then a couple things happened. My mama, after I was complaining to her about these issues I was having and making her listen to my episodes like again and again and again, poor woman, she said, it's okay, but you just have a different concept of what good audio quality is, right? Like you've been used to having professionals record your voice on professional equipment. So you have a much higher standard than the average listener. And then the second thing is while I was making her re-listen to all my episodes and like pick them apart, I noticed that in my very first episode, I had said, and I quote, "That's how I'm approaching this. No pressure, just having fun with it and inviting people into my living room for a chat," end quote. And that's when I realized I was just being a weenie. Like, no way in heck was I going to stop doing something I loved or put it on hiatus just because I was aiming for perfection. Because that's what perfectionism really is. It's just our subconscious trying to protect us from all the things that we don't want, right? Like failing, people judging us, losing out on anything, which was exactly what was going on for me. I didn't want people to judge the podcast or my competency based on the audio quality, and I definitely didn't want to lose listeners or fail. That's the tricky thing about perfectionism. It makes us believe that we'll avoid all of that if we're perfect, right? We're not going to have any problems or face any challenges or feel any pain. But I mean, let's be real. Those things will never not happen in life. That's just life as humans. And how many of us have either learned the most or grown into better versions of ourselves after going through pain and challenges. Super successful people always say they learn more from failing than succeeding. And I feel like the rest of us do too. And I mean, come on, we're all super successful in our own ways. And perfectionism, it's also just a crap concept. It's just an illusion and it's subjective. Everyone has a different idea of what perfect is. And you can spend hours and hours writing a script or writing a bunch of captions that you think are perfect, and then you post them, and then someone else reading them thinks they're just okay. Or you can spend hours editing your YouTube video thumbnails, and someone else won't like the colors you used or the font. What we might think is perfect, someone else may think is just ho-hum, or even straight up hate it and feel the need to tell us and everyone else reading the comment section on the internet. And the thing that gets me the most is that this idea of having to be perfect might be holding you back from reaching your biggest dreams and goals. We want to do our best work and do work that truly serves and helps others. And I believe that because, you're listening to this show. So I believe that you're a good person who wants to do good work. But if we set such a high standard for ourselves and our work, or we get so caught up in making everything absolutely perfect, we're going to wind up stuck or unable to take that next step. Have you ever just kept researching or editing or enrolling in one more class to feel really, truly ready, or think that you have to have everything figured out before you take action, and just keep spinning your wheels, right? Instead of moving forward. So instead of doing all of that and striving for perfection, what I want you to switch that frame of mind to is striving for progress, because I'm telling you, progress beats perfection every day. Plus, when we dare to take imperfect action towards our goals, we're going to get our work out there to the people who need it and want it most, who are our people. And that's what we're here to do, right? We don't want to keep it stuck in our drafts or keep it stuck in our laptop or in our minds, going over it again and again and again. We want to get it out there into the world so it can serve and help the people who it needs to help and serve. So if you're ready to kiss perfectionism goodbye, here are some really practical tips to help you overcome that nagging urge to make everything perfect, and some really great tips on how to stop stopping yourself. Number 1, I want you to celebrate every small step forward. Seriously, like every little thing you do. Recognize and celebrate it. I even did an entire podcast episode on that. It's episode 3 if you haven't heard it yet. So go ahead and do that. Number 2, I want you to see any mistakes you might make as lessons and see them as opportunities for growth. Because the truth is, most of us aren't awesome when we first start something. We're awesome as human beings, but the work itself that we're doing, it probably isn't awesome at first, but then we just get better over time. So instead of being so hard on yourself, just embrace the journey and enjoy the process of learning and improving, because at the end of the day, we're all a work in progress. Number 3, and this one has been huge for me. I want you to break down your big goals into smaller, achievable tasks. And this way, you're way less likely to get overwhelmed and fall into that perfectionism trap. And if you focus on making consistent progress rather than aiming for flawless results, you're going to get a lot further, a lot quicker. And trust me, again, this one was huge for me and it's a massive game changer. Number 4 is to be good to yourself, which is my advice on a lot of things. Either be yourself or be good to yourself. But remember that, again, nobody's perfect, since we all have a different opinion of what perfect is. So I want you to treat yourself with that same kindness and compassion and understanding that you give to your bestie. And I want you to give yourself permission to make mistakes and then learn from them. Because as long as you're a good person, and I really believe you are, again, listening to this podcast, good people, it's a good community here, any mistakes that you make, they're not going to be malicious or with ill intent, right? They're just going to be hiccups that you make as a human being. So I don't think any mistakes are going to make you evil. I definitely don't think they're going to make you a bad person. So just pick yourself up, be good to yourself, and then learn from them. Also, if you have really healthy habits in place, like reading or listening to inspiring material or meditating, journaling, exercising, that kind of stuff, that's all really great for grounding ourselves and for lifting up our moods and for being good to ourselves. And finally, number 5, I want you to let go of unrealistic expectations and just allow yourself to be imperfect. You are unique and awesome and incredible just as you are, and so is your work. And these imperfections that you may see, those are the things that make you stand out from the crowd and create something truly different and amazing. And we want to stand out in our crowded markets because we want our people to find us. So those are my big 5 tips. And if reaching your biggest, juiciest dreams and goals isn't a big enough reason to ditch perfectionism, I have a couple of really big reasons why it's so important to get yourself out of those thoughts. The first one is that ditching perfectionism, it's going to grow your resilience. We might not succeed at everything we do, and that might be a hard one to hear, but we're going to fail from time to time, right? Most projects are a risk, and that's huge for our personal growth. Just think of the times that you tried something and you fell flat or you came up short or you failed. You survived that. You probably learned something, even if it was just the fact that you didn't love it, and you moved on to bigger and better, and that's what we want. And then the second big thing is that it's going to grow your confidence, which I love. Going through with launching something huge or exciting to you, starting a new project, pursuing a passion project, even if you doubt your ability when you start it, and even if you doubt yourself as you're going through it and building it, that's going to reinforce the feeling and the knowledge that you did the thing that you wanted to do, which is massive in proving to yourself that you are capable of doing big, scary, important things. Even if the end result isn't what you wanted or what you expected, you still went through the journey and the methods and the process of doing the thing. So even if the results aren't as great as you had wanted, if you did the thing, I think that's still a massive success, and that's still experience, and nothing grows your confidence like experience. So again, progress in any form, that's going to matter way more than perfection. And life can be super uncertain at times, but putting ourselves out there, like good, bad, ugly, all of it, it's in those moments that we truly discover who the heck we are. And before I pressed record here, I pulled an affirmation card. I usually do before every episode, just sets the vibe. And I kid you not, this is what it says. Quote, blurt out your ideas or hold them back and see what doesn't happen. And that card is from the Listen B deck. I post pictures of it all the time on my Instagram. The B does stand for kind of a bad word, so I'm not going to say it. But I mean, how freaking perfect is that? Or maybe not to you. Maybe you think it's dumb because, again, perfection is dumb and it's subjective. But to me, that card is pretty darn good for an episode like this. Hold back your ideas and see what doesn't happen, right? There you go. So that's it. That's my best advice for ditching perfectionism and moving ahead with your big, juicy ideas and goals and dreams. Quick recap for you. Number 1 is to celebrate every step you make forward. Number 2, mistakes, see them as lessons or opportunities for growth. Number 3 is to break down those goals into smaller tasks. Number 4, please be good to yourself. And number 5 is to let go of unrealistic expectations and just allow yourself to be imperfect. And as for this podcast and my imperfect audio issues, I'm just going to try to keep getting it as good as I can. In the meantime, I've called in one of my friends. He's a producer. He's going to take a look at my setup and my gear and try to see if there's a way that we can get it a little bit better here and there, episode after episode after episode. But by no means is there any way that I'm going to stop recording episodes and putting my work out there, especially when I love this so much. And speaking of my work, I am currently taking on new clients for my one-on-one coaching packages. They're going to help you take the fear out of public speaking and transform you into the confident, captivating speaker you were always meant to be. And of course, we're going to have a ton of fun while we're at it, because that's what we're all about over here. So feel free to send me a note at info@heykahla.com. If you want to work together, I will send you the details. I'd love to support you on your journey. And thank you, as always, so much for hanging out with me. For anything and everything else, you can head on over to heykahla.com, or if you got something to say, I'm always all ears. You can send me a note at info@heykahla.com, and I hope you have the best day.